These partnerships matter for tonight's topic because real lives matter and real risks are in agriculture. This evening is centered around grain bin safety, which continues to be one of the most serious hazards in agriculture. In recent incidents across the Midwest this year, emergency crews have responded to multiple grain bin entrapments requiring specialized rescue equipment, including grain tubes, augers, and vacuum systems. One recent case involved a fatal accident where emergency responders had to work for an extended period to rescue individuals trapped in the grain bin. These situations can turn life-threatening in seconds. Grain entrapment can happen quickly, and survival often depends on immediate response and proper equipment. With that in mind, we're going on to hear from those who bring firsthand experience. First tonight is Dennis Ritter with Keystone, who will provide a silo demonstration and perspective on grain handling safety equipment.
As Heidi said, I'm Dennis Ritter. I work with Keystone in Clay City, and I'm happy to be here tonight to support grain safety. And what I like to demonstrate is that Nathan and I have talked, and this is a demonstration of him. He's in the middle here. And so you see, one thing that's very important when you do this, you want to, if you're getting into a bin, you want to make sure it's locked out or tag out. Very important so that nobody can come on and turn anything on while you're in the bin. And we'll just let this thing go, make sure it goes in the right spot. You can see how Nathan's just getting it sucked down in. And the farther in he goes, the harder for it is for him to breathe. And then he gets into this position if you get into where you just can't move. And Keystone has donated 2 grain tubes to, that was Posey, Larry Temple when he retired, and then we donated one to Clay City, and that's the ones that Glenn knows about that we utilize now. And you just see, it just keeps getting farther in until it gets plugged up. I think that's it on me, Heidi. If anybody's got any questions, they can ask them.
Well, thank you so much for your demonstration. Next is Nathan Stolting, a local farmer, Clay County community member, ISBA district support specialist, and grain accident survivor. Nathan, would you like to come up and speak?
Thanks, Heidi. As I was walking around, I think Clay County is not that big. I'm pretty sure everybody's heard my story, but that's what they asked me to talk about, and so I'll tell you what happened. Dennis gave you a pretty good demonstration of kind of what it was, but for those of you that have farmed, you've probably had issues with a bin. That's what we had. We had some chunks. A little moisture had gotten in there. Some of the corn was sticking together, so we were using a PVC pipe to try to break that up, free things up. Just got in the bin that morning and took the PVC pipe. As I walked in from the ladder there to where the PVC was in the center, I didn't expect the first couple of jabs to actually break free. It seems like it never works that way, but that is exactly what happened. The second jab, it freed it up. And I didn't realize that from where I'd walked in, some of the corn had slid back over my left foot. And so I went to move my left foot, and by then it was just too late. The right foot was sucked in pretty quick, and I could not get my left foot out of there to pull the right foot out. So down I went from there, and I don't know, it sucked me into about my sternum. Fortunately, at that point, it plugged back up. And there I sit, and that's kind of what happened. Eventually, my dad came in to find out how come I wasn't getting my job done, getting the corn out. And so I told him it might be a good idea to go ahead and shut things down until we got me out first, and then we'd worry about the rest of the corn. But anyhow, he called his brother, who's on the Corey Volunteer Fire Department, and I called a buddy of mine who I knew had a crane. And he brought the crane down, and of course they showed up, they had the tubes. This was an older bin, they could not get the tubes in from the manhole up top. So they lowered the crane down, a buddy of mine did, put a harness around me and tried to lift me up. But as I started to come up, I was in there so good that even with that, I thought it was going to split me in half. So I had him stop, and we talked about it a little more then and what we was going to do. And they finally decided they was going to have to cut a hole in the bin. There's no way to get the tubes in there and suck the grain out around me. So I said, well, let's try it one more time, and I'll see if I can just be a little tougher. And I did finally pop out then. And that's about it. but I would like to encourage everyone, if you do need to get in the bin, please make sure you have a harness on. That was a dumb mistake. I've been doing this all my life. Climbed in there that day and a little arrogant, and it got me. So I think that's it, Heidi.
Thank you so much, Nathan. Next, we would like to hear from Lainey Reeves, who will share a personal story about her father and the impact of a fatal grain bin accident.
July 29th, 2024, a day I will never forget. It was a hot summer day, my first day off after working the 3 12-hour shifts in a row. Our boys were off to summer camp at the YMCA, and I was using the day to get my home back in order. The day flew by quicker than I thought. Before I knew it, camp was out for the day, and we were back home finishing up making dinner. My dad, Gerald Reagan, or Gary as most knew him, was pulling in the drive coming in to visit for a short moment. Our youngest son had forgotten his book a couple of nights before at my dad's. He wanted to make sure he got it back. We were at my dad's loading corn into our grain wagon because we needed to grind feed for our cows, and we were out. Upon loading the corn out of the bin, we noticed it was starting to show signs of damage. Dad kept the grain longer than he usually did in hopes that the price might go up. He decided that night to start loading it out to start hauling in the next day. He had told me on the 29th that he had gotten a few loads in and a decent price for them considering. They were calling for storms that evening, and I felt I was keeping him from getting back to load another load in the semi for the next day. But to me, it seemed to me at that moment that he did not want to go, that he knew something that I did not. He left soon after that, and I went back to prepare dinner. My husband Jeremy and my brother Alan were over at our farm unloading our forklift my brother had borrowed. Next thing I knew, I seen my brother and Jeremy speeding down our road. I did not know what was going on until Jeremy called. I answered the phone and answered, "Hey, how's it going?" Jeremy answered, "I do not know if I can do this." I instantly asked what was wrong. Jeremy said, "Your dad called me, but I did not answer because I was unloading the forklift with your brother. Your dad called George, Dad's neighbor, and George said when he answered your dad, said, 'Come quick, my hand is caught.'" George hurried over and found a tractor and auger running while corn was loading into the semi, but there was no sign of your dad. We believe he may be in the grain bin. The world fell out from beneath my feet. My only thought was I need to be there, but I did not want my boys there. I seen an ambulance and volunteer firefighters fly past my home. The only thing I could do in that moment was yell out to God. My brother-in-law John and his wife Brianna came to stay with our boys and take me to my dad's. When I got there, multiple people were looking all over for him. A few were by his semi that had moved away from the bin up by the road. There were a few people by Dad's semi, and they were opening the bottom of the trailer to see if he was in there. They started combing through it all as it hit the ground with no signs of him. I started walking back towards the bins where Alan, Jeremy, and the firefighters were. As I walked by the back bin, I had a lump in my throat praying he was not in there. The fire department had come to see if he was in there, but to me they seemed unsure. So they started making cuts all in different places around the bin. Mike Ledgerwood was there, and he came to me and told me not to watch, to look away. I did as he said. Alan could not step away from the bin, though. He had to know if he was in there or not. Once a large section was cut in the side toward the front, Alan used a tractor with a bucket on it to lift the section. He came back to those of us standing well behind the bin and said he was in there. I see his boots. We were all in shock and disbelief. Growing up, Dad made sure we all knew the dangers of being around and working around grain bins. I remember on one occasion he was sweeping a bin out and I wanted to get in with him. He told me, "No, don't you ever get in a bin, especially not alone." Alan later told me the reason was because the grain piled on the opposite side could fall on you and crush or suffocate you. My dad knew grain bin safety. There was no doubt about that. The only thing I can think is that A, he was shining his phone in and he fell in, or B, he thought he could knock the grain that was stuck to the sides with his boot, and he got caught. My dad was 79 and was unsteady on his feet, but Alan and I never wanted to tell him he could not do something due to his age. He honestly probably would have chewed us out for it. Once the fire department knew he was in there, they went to work shoveling the corn out from around him. There was so much corn, but it was to be suspected with the mostly full bin. We soon discovered they were not fighting just the grain, but also the amount of pressure built up in the bin. Alan still could not step away. He wanted to be there when they pulled Dad free. The rest of us went up to my dad's house to wait. Family members, friends, and neighbors came. Our tiny little community quarry and surrounding areas came to see if they could do anything to help. Finally, after many hours, they had him free and in an ambulance. We were allowed to see him before they took him to the funeral home. But because it was a farm accident, an autopsy had to be performed. It took 13 long weeks before we received the report. In those 13 weeks, I was very angry with God. I kept asking him, why would you let Dad suffer? A year ago that very week, we went out west with my dad to Cheyenne, Wyoming, to the Daddy-in-Law rodeos. That was probably the best trip we ever had with my dad. While there, we traveled down to see my cousin Cindy in Colorado. And while we was at dinner, Dad told Cindy that he did not want to lay in a hospital bed and die. He wanted Alan or I to find him in his chair in his bed. I was taken aback, but Cindy said, "You have to respect his wishes." The report for the autopsy stated he passed through the atmosphere he's in, the amount of pressure. I like to think my dad simply was crushed in the weight of the corn pushing on him, and he passed quickly, like he'd asked and wanted. I forgave God and asked for his forgiveness. Soon after, I miss my dad very much, but I'm at peace with it because I know he's with our Lord and Savior now, driving those golden tractors that never break down. God has shown me signs that Dad is okay and at peace. For instance, the night of his visitation, it rained and we saw a rainbow appear. I see cardinals from time to time. And then I saw the Corey Volunteer Fire Department share this event on social media. I knew I needed to reach out and ask if I could share Dad's story. The fire department chief, Glenn, and Jennifer from Soil Water Conservation were very excited for me to share. Anyone that knew my dad knew he was the type that was very quiet, kept to himself though. He never would have guessed that one day he would become the voice of awareness, that he would start a chain reaction so something like this could be prevented from happening. I want to say thank you to the many fire departments that were there that night for your brave efforts. I know that was a hard night for you men and women. I am proud of you though for seeking to learn more about grain bin safety and bringing awareness into the community. And I also like to say thank you to Jennifer and all the sponsors for putting this event on, and thank you to everyone that came out tonight.
Thank you so much, Lainey, for sharing such a powerful, important story. Finally, we would like to hear from Glenn Neiswinger with the Corey Volunteer Fire Department, who brings the emergency response perspective to grain bin rescues.
Well, that's going to be hard to follow. And for anybody who was thinking that they saved the best for last, you are going to be disappointed. I don't want to dwell a whole lot on those incidents. I was at both of those incidents, Nathan's and Gary's. And the only thing I want to bring up about them was that when the call came out for Gary's call, I was actually in Brazil. And we automatically, just right off the bat, had them start Clay City Fire and Centerpoint Fire. By the time I got there, they had already started Riley Fire and Posey Township. But when I got there, there were 9 fire departments there. Because there was those 5 that was called. Bowling Green heard about it and showed up. Lewis Township heard about it and showed up. Pearson Township in Vigo County heard about it and showed up. And Wright Township in Greene County. There was roughly 40 firefighters there, but the scene can only be described really as chaos. We had too many guys who didn't know what they were doing. that made the scene chaotic. It made the scene dangerous for everybody else that was there. So the following evening, we did a incident debriefing, and in the discussion at that debriefing, everybody came up with the idea that, you know, we need to do better. We can do better than this. So we rolled out an idea that, you know, other counties have certain teams for certain things. They have water rescue teams or rope rescue teams or such as that. Why can't we start a county-wide farm rescue team? Get them trained on farm rescues, get them the equipment they need. So we kind of, over the next couple of weeks, we kind of kicked the idea around. We had a meeting with Clay City Fire Department and discussed it. And in September of that year, we rolled the idea out at the quarterly fire chiefs meeting. You know, take this back to your departments and see if this is something that's going to work. And we had roughly 40 people that wanted to be a part of this team and wanted to get trained, which I was thrilled. I didn't think it would be that great. So, okay, now we got to get kind of organized. Well, we got to have training. We got to have equipment. So we called on Howell Rescue Systems out of Dayton, Ohio, which is an outfit that we use we buy some supplies through. They come over and assessed all of our tools and equipment and made recommendations on what we needed. And we needed roughly $10,000 worth of equipment, mostly ropes and harnesses and pulleys and such. But so we started in on trying to get donations to get that equipment. The whole time we're trying to line up some training. We finally did get the equipment thanks to Keystone Co-op donated, Schottmeyer Ag donated, Land O'Lakes and Amcor all donated to get us the equipment we needed. So now we're going to get training. We called on an outfit called State Line Farm Rescue in Illinois, which is up on the Wisconsin line, which is probably why they named it State Line Farm Rescue. They were very well recommended, $195 a person. I didn't want to make everybody pay for their own training because I thought that might cut some people out. So, went to the commissioners, went to the county council, got them on board. They said, we're not sure how, where we're going to pull the funds from, but we're going to make it happen. So June 21 of 2025, we had a training with them, which was a Saturday. They came in on a Friday evening, set their grain bin simulator up at Jeff Hyatt's farm, south of Clay City. Saturday morning, we had classroom training at the Clay City Firehouse. After about 4 hours of that, we went out to the farm, did grain bin simulator training. We also got auger entanglement training. And we had 27 guys that were able to make the training, which I was thrilled because it's tough to get everybody's schedule to work together when you're talking that many people. But so by the end of the day, we had 27 people trained. We had all the equipment we needed and put the team together. We're still working on some logistics things about, how we're going to respond and whatever, but at least it was our thought that the highest percentage of success rate for any rescue is a rescue you don't have to do. The next highest percentage rate is a rescue where you go at it with the proper tools and the proper training and you know what to do. So we feel like we've done that. We feel like we're we're as prepared as we can be. So where we go from here, we're discussing maybe expanding the team to deal with other types of farm emergencies, anhydrous ammonia, tractor rollover, things like that. State Line Farm Rescue puts on so I've heard, a pretty good tractor rollover training. Again, $195 a person, so kind of need to put that on the back burner for a little bit, but we're looking to expand the team to be able to do other things. The thought was, anywhere in the county, if there's a farm emergency, they'll call the team, and we'll have people from all the way from Lewis Township clear to Dick Johnson Township that will show up, know what they're doing, we'll have the tools to do it with, and we feel like that's doing the best that we can possibly do. So that's all I got. Did I do it in 7 minutes? All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Glenn. And thank you again, everyone, for being here tonight. Please remain seated as we begin the film, Silo. The screening portion of our event has now concluded. For those who need to head out, thank you so much for spending your evening with us, and we wish you a safe trip home. Before we move into the Q&A, I'd like to take a moment to offer one final thank you to the many people who helped make this event possible. A sincere thank you to Jennifer for her coordination and support, as well as our partner Rita Tech Hannah, and for Melissa for all of her help with the filming and the behind-the-scenes work in bringing this together. We also want to extend a gratitude to our donors and supporters. Your generosity and commitment made this event possible, and we truly appreciate your investment in this work in this community. And with that, who would like to stay, please start moving your way to the front as we move into the Q&A. And I'd like to invite Glenn Neiswinger to lead us through the Q&A discussion about the film. And we welcome your questions, comments, and perspectives. Glenn?
I will say one thing after watching that, and this was one of the things we tried to address with the formation of the farm rescue team, was at the point in there where you had responders that were arguing about what to do. And that was time wasted. And that's where we felt it was a better thing to have everybody on the same page. Everybody has been trained the same. Granted, not every rescue is the same, but you got people who are getting in the bin, who are assessing the situation, and they're trained the same as you are, so everybody's on the same page. It makes for a whole lot less chaotic scene, makes for a whole lot safer scene, and it makes for a whole lot better results, I guess. So, questions, comments? That's easy. Question?
All right, so I've never seen the tube or whatever that piece of equipment is. All right, so the movie portrayed that the base state only he wasn't. I mean, how would you do that? How would you get that set up around it?
Well, I'll just say that scene you just saw was very dramatized.
Right.
The tube comes in 6 sections, and it makes you put them together and it makes a circle about like so. You're right, when the grain is unstable like that makes it a little more difficult. What we have, of all things you can use, plastic Pepsi crates. You put them down and walk on those. That keeps the pressure off of the victim. I'll say when we did our training, I was just recovering from shoulder surgery, so I couldn't do a whole lot of the hands-on stuff. So they used me as a victim in their simulator. And they ran me down to my armpits. And number one, I realized this was a small simulator bin, but it was amazing how quick you can get past the getting out. I mean, I'm going to say a matter of 10 seconds or less, you're trapped. But while I was in there, then they had guys get in and walk just around the edge of that bin. And you could feel every step they took. But when they put the Pepsi crates down and walked on those, you couldn't feel it. So, because it distributes the weight. So that's a way to do it. And you go in, then you put which they didn't show actually using the tube like it's supposed to be used, I guess, but you put the tube together around the victim, and then you use the auger to auger the corn out from around the victim. So yeah, that was, some of what you saw was relevant, and some of it really wasn't. Another thing that I noticed when we were going through the training and they ran me in the corn, I was there with 26 other responders and 5 instructors and all the equipment and tools we needed to get somebody out, and I was in a panic. Because when you get running corn up to your armpits, and the one thing that was true, you wind up just slow or just rapid shallow breathing, because every time you would exhale, it would just come in tighter on you. And I can't imagine being in a bin for a long period of time, waiting on people to show up, because I was freaking out, and we had everything right there to get me out. So I don't know if I answered your question or not, but that was kind of the perspective I got. Any other questions, comments?
So one thing in the movie was they, obviously tied off that rope early to 209 around it. Is that what you guys advised going before there, or is there something that's what's the best course of action on farm before first responders arrive? Farmers there.
Okay, if I'm understanding you right, because it's kind of hard for me to hear, you want to know about what our courses of action are when we arrive.
Well, or before you guys arrive, what should we do if we're in that situation?
Okay, what should you do? All right, good question. Number one, shut off all the power. Make sure the augers aren't running, make sure the tractor's not running, make sure, just kill the power. Lock it out so nobody can accidentally turn it on. Without having, yes, if you have ropes or if you have a harness, try to get that down to the victim. If the victim's arms are free, that they can get that wrapped around them, tie it off to the ladder so they won't go in any deeper. Now that's not saying that corn won't come in on top of them, but that way they don't go down any farther. And so those are the first couple things that you would need to do in such a situation. Obviously, and this really doesn't have anything to do with the victim, so to speak, but just make room for us to get in there. Get things out of the way so when we arrive, we can hit the ground running and not have to walk around tractors or whatever to get to the bins. But yeah, tying them off is probably the best thing you can do. And that's, unless anybody can come up with anything else, that's pretty much all I would say that you could do. The best thing that you can do anyway.
My name is Cindy Oakham. I'm Indian House District 42 representative from Lake County. This has been an issue with all of you for a long time. I've talked to Lake County, Imperial Back Dogs. I don't know how we lost another one here just in the last 2 weeks. I think we lost another one. You know, I'm to the place that any way I can enact legislation or something, change to make it a better condition. I don't know about design or something. We need to do this in every way, not only from the farm side, also from the rest of the side. If there's any way I can produce any type of legislation that makes this better and safer, I'm willing to do that.
Okay, when it comes to legislation, that's something I would have to, you know, as far as grain bin designs or legislating grain bin designs or whatever, I'm not sure how that would work, but the one thing that really we need, you know, to prevent this, everybody knows, you heard Nathan say it, he knew not to get in that bin. He knew not to get in there without being tied off. I mean, I know what it's like. You're in a hurry. The rope and harness are over in the shed. I'm just going to be in there for a couple of minutes. I've done it 100 times, never had a problem. That's when you have a problem. So it's not, I don't necessarily think it's a design flaw in grain bins or in rescue equipment. You know, accidents are accidents. You can't prevent everyone. So, anybody else got any comments or questions? Somebody's pointing. Lady.
You talked about classes being so much. Is there anything you need to do to help you guys get that money so you guys can go?
Okay, your question was about the cost of the classes and getting that paid for. Glad you brought that up. When we discussed the idea of doing the training and forming the team, we wanted to get training that was good. We didn't want to get glossed over training. We wanted training, and the instructors we had they've done this before. This wasn't something that they're just teaching, they've actually done this. Like anything, if it's good, it comes with a cost. And like I said, the county council and commissioners were gracious enough to pay for that training. As the team grows and expands, we're looking to do more trainings. And again, $195 a person is not, I'm afraid if we make the responder pay for it himself, then it's going to root a lot of people out. So, as we get going, as we look into that, you know, it may be something that we can kind of plan on, work through the Farm Bureau, through the Soil and Water to try and get, you know, donations made to help pay for that. That's kind of where we're at. I don't think it's fair to make the responder pay. I don't think it's fair to make every fire department pay, because a lot of the fire departments are on a shoestring budget as it is. So that's a problem that we worked out on the first one. We're still in the process of working out how we're going to make that work in the future. Anybody got anything else?
Thank you so much, Glenn. Well, this concludes this evening, so thank you again, everyone, for attending this event. And and have safe travels home.
Thank you.